Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of Big Business Live. Looking forward to talking to LeAnn Henri, who was just named one of the 7 real estate YouTube channels worth binge watching. She is your favorite millennial realtor over at DOBI Real Estate, a YouTuber, social media guru. And LeAnn, I've been impressed with everything you've done on social before you were named one of the 7 real estate YouTube channels worth binge watching. So I want to say that. I want to say that for the record.
Thank you.
So I want to, I have so much I want to talk to you about because I think what you've been doing on social these past years, you have such a way of wordsmithing and matching your words with the visuals, with some business, with some personal. And with something that's thought-provoking, all without, I think, in my opinion, without offending anyone, but raising consciousness. And I'm always intrigued by when I see somebody who can really do that, because I'm a really big believer that the same level of consciousness that got us where we are today will not get us where we are tomorrow. And so I always love when I see conscious people doing conscious things to raise consciousness. So I want you to just talk a little bit about of course, welcome to the show and it's great to see you, but talk a little bit about what's the strategy and the time that goes into doing what you do? Because you really, anyone who's visited your social channels knows you spend a lot of time.
I do. I spend a lot of time, but it's funny because sometimes I feel like I don't spend enough time.
Right.
I do not schedule my posts ahead of time. I'm working on it. I really am. But I always just go off of a feeling. So whatever I feel in that moment, when it's time for me to post, then I'll go through my camera roll and I'll just say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. It helps that I have that nice grid that I've been doing for the last 2 years on my my Instagram timeline. So if you go, then you'll see that it's picture and then a word quote situation and then another picture. So I keep that all throughout. So that does kind of help me structure it that way. But when I'm posting, when I'm making videos, when I'm talking to people, when I'm in buyer or seller consultations, whatever the case may be, my number one thing is always authenticity. I want to be myself everywhere I go. I don't want to feel like I have to be all these different versions of myself depending on where I am. I just want to be me all the way through and through. And I think that's been translating very well. And that's the reason why I've become more and more well-known, and it's growing daily just because people are attracted to that. They don't feel like there's this flowery version of who I am or whatever the case may be. I just want to make sure that every time I'm talking to people, I'm providing value, I'm being authentically myself, and I'm inviting people to dare to do the same thing.
Yeah, let's talk about that because that's, let's define authenticity for a minute because it's a word that gets thrown out a lot. And I think there's authenticity where, you see people for who they are, but they're not giving value, right? They're not encouraging you to do the same. They're not necessarily always empowering the other person. One of the things I find so intriguing about your posts is that they are empowering. You can't help but be empowered on some level, whether it's visually, kinesthetically, auditory, the way you're reading something to yourself. And so what's the secret of that, of really being authentic, but not really making it all about you, making it kind of a mix of what you're doing, what you do, who you serve, and then really people to think and be bold?
So I have always wanted to do a ton of different things with my life. Like when I was a kid and people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would say oh, I don't know, because I can be anything and I want to be everything. And people would laugh, but that was genuinely my answer because there's just such a wide world around. And there's so many different ways that our lives can go, so many choices and decisions that we can make. So for me, instead of that feeling like an overwhelming thing, then I just thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna try to do everything.
Yeah.
And for some people that doesn't work because you're just scatterbrained, and they say if you're a jack of all trades, then you're a master of none, et cetera, all of that good stuff. But for me, I always wanted to find a way to marry all of those things together.
Yeah.
So before I got into real estate, I was working at a university. I was working for a school, middle and high school. So it was like a pipeline from middle, high school, and then matriculating into the University of Michigan. So I was working there, and I loved it. It was just something that I hold so dearly to me. I miss my scholars every single day. But giving back, outreach, teaching, those things were always at the core of what I did. So when I was an undergrad, I was a model for a short amount of time. There's so many different things that I've done that I've wanted to do that I'm just like, okay, I can check that off the box. But above all else, I always wanted to make sure that as I'm doing these things, I'm teaching people how to do it themselves. I'm showing them that you don't have to just fall into one category. You can do all of these things and be successful at them. So even with my Instagram page, I don't post actually a ton about houses, or I don't need to become another Zillow. That's what you have Zillow for. I don't want you to scroll on my page and all you see is houses. I want you to see me. I want you to see my personality. So some people think that you have to post so much about certain things that people know that that's what you do.
Yeah.
I found what my followers react well to, and I dug into that. So my followers react well to my face. So anytime I post something that involves my face, they like it. They react well to longer form captions. So my captions tend to be kind of like mini blog posts, if you will. They react well to well edited and well shot photos. So a lot of the pictures that you see on my timeline are either taken on my iPhone, or like I have a lot of photographer friends. Obviously I came from the modeling world. So, I'm able to flip back and forth between those two, but I always edit my pictures before I put them up. So it's no extreme editing. Like I look how I look in real life in my pictures, but I'm tweaking the colors. If there's just anything that is a flyaway or something that looks off, I want it to look really good, but I don't want to edit it so much to where it feels fake. So all of those things married together really equals into, it translates non-verbally to people. So they see what they like. They can't necessarily put their finger on what it is that they like, but I've done it enough times to where they've become used to it. They've become accustomed to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love everything. I love everything that you're talking about, and understanding the different social platforms, and what each group wants from each of those social platforms is really important. But I want to dive into the kind of the long caption mini blogs, because I think some people know that there are people might like that, but it takes time to actually sit down and commit time.
Yeah.
And write, right? And what was it? I think it was Winston Churchill that said, if I had more time, I'd write a shorter speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
And longer time to actually write a couple sentences. And so from a ritual standpoint, can you share kind of the rhythm and ritual that you get into when it comes to taking time to write?
So I have always been a fan of words. I've always been a fan of language. My mom used to read the encyclopedia to me and have me repeat back words. And it would just tickle her so much that I would pronounce them back 100% correctly as this little kid.
Yeah.
So that's always been fun to me. But I think as I'm writing, I want to make sure that my point is being delivered as quickly and as succinctly as possible, because people are scrolling and you only have a couple of seconds to really grasp their attention. So that's why I'm very particular about the photos that I use, because that's the first thing that you're going to grab them with. And then they're looking at the caption. And if that caption is just a one-liner or something that they don't really care about, then they're going to keep scrolling. But I want to add some sort of value in the caption. So I try to tie in something in the photo, but not always. You know, it's okay if your photo doesn't match your caption. Like, that's not the end of the world, I promise.
Yeah.
As I'm writing, I want it to be not always profound, but I don't want it to be surface level either. So finding a good mix in between that too. I'm not a Socrates, I'm not an Aristotle, none of that. But I do want people to say like, wow, I needed to hear that, or I needed to read that, or, you know, I'm so happy that LeAnn shares these little tidbits of her life with us. And when I hit post and I see the reactions, I'm just like, okay, this was needed. This was necessary.
Yeah. I think in today's world, people need more of those. I needed to hear that moment. So I love that you're talking about that. I want to talk about YouTube for a minute because, you know, you were just named between Josh Altman and Ryan. I always say his name wrong. Sear.
Yeah.
Right. You know, two very, you know, those are two, they're both on television. They've got massive followings, and you were just, you know, right between them as one of the 7 people to watch on YouTube. So congratulations. It's a huge success.
Thank you.
And I know you did it organically. So I'd like you to talk on 2 things. How do you grow organically and have the patience? And also, how do you do it on YouTube? Because I think it's harder to do on YouTube, I think, than it is on other stations.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, well, I've wanted to start a YouTube channel since 2009, right? So if I was to go in and show you like the creation date of my YouTube channel, it says December 26th, 2009. Yeah. And every single year after, I was just like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then I never did it. And finally, in 2018, I was like, you know what? This is the last year where I let the goal of start a YouTube channel get carried over on my vision board for yet another year. I'm not going to do it. So I put out a video, really the only thing that I knew to do, which was a makeup tutorial. I was like, all right, let's just see what happens, just so I can get it out there, just to do it.
Yeah, just started whatever it is. Right.
Yes, you just start where you are. So I did that, and people thought it was funny, and they're just like, this is good, and I like it, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, cool. But then I just didn't post another video for like 4 months or something crazy. And then I like tried to do videos on like travel, because I really, really love to travel. So like how to find cheap flights and et cetera, et cetera. And I did like a series on how to buy a car, because a lot of people don't know how to do that. And I just did a 4-part series of how to do your research and negotiate at the dealership and all of these things. And as I was doing it, I was realizing that I enjoy providing value. So I was like, okay, you know, what's the next thing that I can do? How can I mesh, you know, my life with my YouTube channel? Because I want to share what I do with people, and I want to help people, but I don't necessarily know how to do it. And I always knew that my YouTube channel wasn't necessarily going to be a beauty channel, but I was just like, I'm just going to start somewhere. I'm going to start somewhere. So when I made the video that is my most popular video on my YouTube channel right now, which is a day in the life of a real estate agent, I made that earlier this year. So I filmed it in the middle of February, and it was something that I was like, okay, I'm going to edit this, but because I edit all of my own videos right now and all of this stuff, it was taking me forever to get it done. So finally, I got it done, and I uploaded it to YouTube. And coincidentally, it ended up being uploaded mere days before the stay-home order was issued in Michigan. So it's kind of like it was a perfect storm, but it was also, I believe there's no such thing as chance. There's no such thing as luck. Everything happens the way that it's supposed to be. Everything happens in divine order. And when I uploaded that video, people had to stay home. They didn't have anything to do but to sit and watch YouTube and entertain themselves. And this video was just growing and growing and growing. I think right now it has maybe like 34, 35,000 views, something like that. And I was like, wait a minute, I might have something here. So I've just been documenting my time as a realtor ever since.
It's great. Let's talk about you as a realtor, and what I love about this story, though. I just quickly on the YouTube is you're doing your own editing, you're learning, you're pivoting, you're beta testing, you're just kind of out there doing it. And one of the things that I love about social media is that you can get out there and practice and beta test. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You can take it down. You know, and if it works, great. And so kudos to you for just kind of, as you said, starting kind of where you are and jumping in. But now let's talk about you. Let's talk about you as a realtor. And so you have, you have this skill set. You're using social media in a really effective way. And now, you're a realtor at DOBI Real Estate. And so talk about just that journey and, what the housing market has had to, come March, when March hit, the housing market was affected, in a devastating way.
Yeah.
Business has seemed to bounce back for homes in a significant way. And so just kind of talk about how you mentally kind of got through and continue to grow your business and social platform over the last 8-9 months.
So that was, you asked me like 6 questions in a row, John. Okay.
I couldn't help it. Yeah. Just take time. Yeah.
Okay. So, journey. So the way that I got into real estate, I had always been curious about it. I have family members who have done real estate, so I've kind of watched from a distance. But I knew that I wanted to get my degree first before I ever even entertained the thought of getting into real estate. So that's why I went to U of M, graduated in 2015. I have a degree in psychology, and people ask, like, do you actually use your degree? Yes. Okay. Yes. Every single day, because real estate transactions are a highly emotional, psychological thing. So I think I use my degree every day. Thank you very much.
I would imagine you do. If you're in sales and you have that degree, you use it every day.
100%. So when I finally did get into real estate, I was still trying to do my full-time job and real estate at the same time. It didn't work personally for me. If that's what you want to do, by all means, have at it. But me personally, no, it didn't work. So I left my job to do real estate full-time. I've been licensed for almost 4 years, so it'll be 4 years in February. But to be 100% honest, I feel like I'm just now hitting my stride. So even though I can count those years as being licensed technically, I feel like these last 18 months have really been, me figuring it out, hitting my stride, and feeling like an expert in what I do instead of kind of just, bumping along and asking for help with every single deal. I feel way more confident now, and I'm excited to keep growing it in the way that it's been grown. So since February, the way that
comment on that for one quick second. I think it takes 2-3 years for anybody in the business to really I agree with you, to really get comfortable, to the continuum and to go through all the seasons and to sell, X amount of houses and watch and be in the industry. It takes 2-3 years before you really kind of feel like you have your legs. And so I like that message that you're sending. And I think it's really important. I wanted to just highlight it because you got to pay your dues and that's part of paying your dues. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't hide it from anyone. When people ask me, I tell them, like, I'm pretty much an open book for the most part. It's like I have parts of my life that I don't necessarily share, but the parts that I do share are so helpful and beneficial. People don't really care about the other parts that I don't share. But so in March, when we were shut down, we were all at home and figuring out what to do. Then that's when I pivoted, and I was like, okay, we're gonna make YouTube videos. We're gonna be helpful to everyone around us. I built my website during the shutdown. So it's a basic web page. So you go on, there's just information about me, and then there's a contact page, and people can go in and schedule buyer or seller consultations. So for a majority of the shutdown, I was here in this space in my home office, just sitting on my laptop and doing buyer consultations with people. And I was getting them ready and getting them prepared so that when we did open back up, we can hit the ground running. Or if they were thinking about purchasing within the next 6 months to a year, then those were the people that I was focusing on, which I'm still focusing on. So I keep that link in my bio almost all the time. Sometimes I alternate between my YouTube channel and my actual LeAnnHenri.com website link in my Instagram bio. But anytime people are wondering like, hey, I have questions about buying a house, or I have questions about selling a house, what do I do, or how can I talk to you? I just send them straight to that link. It's an hour conversation. Some people think like, why are you talking to these people for a whole hour? But for me, I work primarily with first-time home buyers, and specifically first-time home buyers that are minorities. So that's just, it's not me intentionally seeking out these people, but that's the way that my market has opened up to me because of my age, because of my background, because of who I went to school with. These are the people that I know. These are the people who are looking for houses right now. And I just talk to them. So the first 30 minutes is usually talking about finances. So I want to know about their credit scores. I want to know how much money they have saved up. I want to know what are their habits if they don't have enough money saved up, if their credit score isn't high enough. So all of these are with disclaimers because I'm not a credit repair specialist. I'm not a financial guru or anything like that. But I'm able to give advice based upon experience and based upon the people that I've worked with previously. And then once we're through that beginning part of the conversation and we've established whether or not they're financially ready, then we transition into actually how to buy a house. So by the time they're done with that hour consultation, they have a wealth of knowledge that they didn't have an hour prior.
Well, what I love about what you're talking about is, and you mentioned this earlier, is that everything you do has a flavor of being an educator.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so important, I think, for people to, like you're talking about, when you're running your business, that you run it in alignment with how you like to work with people.
Yeah.
And so for you, somebody like you could only spend an hour and educate because that's kind of part of the DNA. That's part of your authenticity is
mm-hmm.
spending that hour. I just want to point out too, the intake questions that you're talking, those are, you said earlier about, encouraging people to kind of be bolder and, kind of rise up themselves. Even the way that you talk about intakes, a lot of times salespeople specifically have a hard time asking those questions right out of the gate. And that's important. You got to qualify. You need to,
mm-hmm.
do exactly what you're talking about. So at the end of that hour, not only do they feel fulfilled, but you feel fulfilled as the teacher. So kudos. I love the way you just articulated all of that. Yeah, you're welcome. I want to talk about social strategy for those people who really are not sure what platforms to use, how often to post, where, and again, I mean, and I love what you said, kind of start where you are. So for those
mm-hmm.
start where you are, no matter what industry they're in. And we're talking to salespeople, VPs of marketing,
mm-hmm.
owners of companies, everybody. How does everybody, get started in a more proactive way on social today?
So I would say pick a posting time and stick to it. So I don't post every day. I need to, and I want to, but I'm still not at that point yet. But when I post, I am posting at consistent times because I've found the times when my followers are most active. And then that's when I want to reach them. So most of my followers have 9 to 5s and they're going on lunch at noon. So I will usually post right at noon to catch them just before their lunch hour. Or I'll post after 5 p.m. to catch them after they get off of work. I know occasionally I'll post at 8 a.m. so I can catch them before they get to work. But usually I want to catch them on their lunch break and I want to catch them when they get off of work. In between those, my engagement plummets. So if you can figure out the times when your followers are most active and post during that time, then that's going to really, really help you. And then once you're consistent with finding that time, then you can be consistent with actually posting every day. It's a small thing, but it's a really, really important building block. So people can get overwhelmed with thinking about all that social media entails and all of the social media growth and all that stuff. But just find that one little thing, and then you grow on it from there.
Yeah. I want to talk about courage when it comes to, I'm going to mute you for a second because I'm getting a little, there we go. I want to talk about courage, right? The courage to be consistent. Mm-hmm. Right? Whether it's once a week, whether it's twice a week, whether it's putting yourself out there, just the courage to really say, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to commit for the next 3 to 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. It takes a long time. And I think some people, think that they're always going to go viral and, things of that nature. But, talk about just the power of consistency and having courage to really put it out there.
So it's very easy to have self-doubt. It's incredibly easy to overthink and to just wonder if anybody's going to like this, or am I doing it right, or whatever the case may be. But if I haven't learned anything along this journey, it's to just do it. You can hide the post later once you get better, or you can archive the videos, or whatever the case may be. But the more you do it and you look back and you see your growth, then it's encouraging to keep going. Yeah, my very first YouTube video, it was great for what it was, but when I look back at it now, I have a newer camera. I have better editing skills. My audio is better. I learned how to color adjust on the videos, and all of these things started because I would look back at what I did, and I would just try to find 1 degree of a difference that could be better in the next video. So people will probably laugh at me if they knew how many times I watch my own YouTube videos after they're live. Like, I will literally sit there and watch it over and over and over for like the next 3 hours, right? No exaggeration. And it's because I just want to see what it looks like, 1, from the eye of the audience. Yeah. And 2, what can I do better next time? It's the same thing with your posts. If you're making Instagram Reels, or if you're making TikToks, or whatever the case may be, just do it and then do it better next time. Yeah. That's been my philosophy.
I love it. Your philosophies are solid. They're working for you. You're doing amazing things, not only as a realtor over at DOBI, but on YouTube, and just being a pace horse on social media for, the importance of, really defining courage and consistency and getting people to think, and again, just, be more conscious, and just take it to another level. I love it. You ready for a speed round, LeAnn?
Woo. Yeah, I'm ready. Here we go.
All right. Okay. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Ooh, gosh, those that, nope, I don't like that one. Oh, shoot. This is not speed at all, John.
This is the conscious round, right? This is like.
Right. So best piece of wisdom, everybody's parents has told them this, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I think that's really important to keep in mind, is just making sure that you keep your wits about yourself.
Yeah, that's important. That makes me think of something my parents used to tell me all the time. They would say, you could always learn something from somebody older and younger. So never tune anybody out, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody can teach you something. One piece of advice you would give somebody graduating college today?
Network, because there's only so far your degree can take you. Sometimes you could just shake the right hand and have the right conversation in line at the grocery store, or a random email that you sent, or whatever the case may be. Just make sure that you're networking and talking to people.
Yeah. One thing you learned during the first lockdown.
One thing, can you repeat that?
One thing you learned about yourself during the first lockdown.
I am resilient, even more than what I gave myself credit for.
Right.
And my ability to just let things roll off my shoulder and move to the next thing is, not to toot my own horn, but it's top tier, John. It's top tier. I'm pretty proud of it.
That's great. Favorite book and why?
Favorite book? I've been reading so much lately, so like my mind is just flooded with books right now. But I really like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
It's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, it's a classic, but there's just so many gems. And it's one of those books that you can read it over and over and over again, and you still get something new out of it every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of my favorite books of all time. I've read it a couple times, and I actually gave it to both my kids and told them I would pay them $50 just to read the book. I gave them a whole stack of books. Yeah, and that's one of them.
There you go.
LeAnn, tell everybody again who your ideal client is, how people can get a hold of you, where they can find you on social, all that stuff.
My ideal client is anyone who wants to better themselves, whether you want to better yourself, better your community. I think homeownership is the way to build wealth, the way to build communities, and passing along that knowledge is incredibly important. So anyone who is willing to receive that knowledge and then in turn pour it out to as many people as possible, then that's my ideal client. To get in contact with me, there's a couple of ways. You can reach out to me at LeAnnHenri.com. That's Henry with an I, Henri. You can send me a DM on Instagram, but I get so many DMs. So I'm sorry if it'll take me a little bit of time to get to you, but I promise I'll get to you. And drop a comment underneath one of my YouTube videos. My YouTube channel is LeAnn Henri.
All right. Yeah, pleasure. I love doing podcasts while we're interviewing great people, but also it's kind of like a mini master's class, not only for the listeners, but specifically me. So I always learn a ton from everybody that I'm talking to. So I appreciate everything that you talked about today. I'm going to go back to just one of the first things you said about authenticity is critical, and the importance of just being yourself and being of value, and using the social platforms for good, and just funneling out and educating as much as you possibly can.
Definitely.
And in return, it comes back to you tenfold. So thanks for everything you do. Congratulations again on your great acknowledgement of being one of the top 7 YouTube binge people to watch. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate your time and all your wisdom. And thanks everybody for listening. If LeAnn can help you, or you know anybody who's looking to buy a house, please
send them my way.
Send them LeAnn's way, or shoot them this video, and then also shoot them LeAnn's way.
There you go. I like that.